Hello and welcome back. In this set of videos, we're going to be talking about the digestive system, starting with an overview of the digestive system. Okay, so I'm just going to start off by saying a little bit about the main functions of the digestive system. First of all, far and away, the most important function of the digestive system is to bring in fluid and nutrients from the external environment to the internal environment, right? So we have all of these molecules that make up our bodies, that carry out all of these processes in our bodies. We need a source for the materials to make those molecules. We also need a source of energy to power all of the things that happen in our bodies. And we get both those building blocks and the energy from the food that we eat. Okay. Another couple functions of the digestive system are fluid balance. Okay, so you will see some regulation of our water intake and water reabsorption in the digestive system. And then also protection from foreign invaders. So a lot of pathogens enter our bodies through our mouths, and um, and the digestive system plays a role in protecting us from those. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the digestive tract. So basically, the digestive system is a tube that goes through our body, or you can think of it as like a tunnel, right? So we start with the oral cavity here. We go down to the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, to the anus. Um, and basically, it's considered part of the external environment. So, like I said, it's kind of like not exactly part of our bodies. It's more like a hole that goes through our body, a tunnel through our body, right? So, if you think of like a tunnel going through a mountain, the tunnel isn't exactly part of the mountain, but it goes through. Okay, so that's kind of what the digestive tract is like. Um, it also goes by the name the gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract. Okay. I also just want to point out really quickly that in addition to the main digestive tract, the tube that runs through our body, we have some accessory organs such as the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, that secrete things, deposit things into the digestive tract to help us process the materials that are in there. Okay, I want to give you a quick tour of the digestive tract, which I already kind of mentioned before, but let's look at the digestive tract part by part. Right now, I'm just going to give you an overview. As we go through this unit, we will talk in more detail about what happens at each point along the digestive tract. But starting at the very beginning, the digestive tract starts with our mouth, the oral cavity. That's where we chew our food and add saliva to it to start breaking it down. Then we swallow our food and it goes down our esophagus. Okay, so the esophagus basically not much happens there except for just the transfer of food from the mouth to the next part of the digestive tract, which is the stomach. Okay, in the stomach, we store our food. We also do start to do some mechanical and chemical digestion of our food, particularly of our proteins. From the stomach, our food, food being processed, gets moved on to the small intestine. And the small intestine is really where a lot of the action happens. That's where most digestion happens. That's where most absorption happens, right? So in the small intestine, we secrete a bunch of enzymes that are going to help us break down the molecules that are in the food that we ate. And then we absorb those into our bodies through the wall of the small intestine. Okay. Um, our accessory organs that I mentioned before, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, are going to secrete materials into the small intestine to help us carry out these functions. Okay. And then finally, we have the large intestine. So in the large intestine, we have some more absorption, mostly of liquids, water, and some ions. Um, so that's kind of the main things that happen in the large intestine. So that's your quick overview. Moving on, the GI tract wall, the wall of the GI tract, has 4 layers. Okay, moving from the inside towards the outside, so from the lumen outward, we have the mucosa here, and then we've got the submucosa. Then we've got the muscularis externa and the serosa. Okay, so in the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about each of these. But I do want to point out that the characteristics of each of these layers is going to vary from region to region along the digestive tract, reflecting the different functions that the different parts of the digestive tract carry out. So, for instance, here we have, I think this is small intestine right here. We have all these little infoldings of the mucosa, which help increase surface area for absorbing molecules. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so going into greater detail about the 4 layers. First up, we have the mucosa. Again, this is going to be up here. This is going to be the lumen of the GI tract. What we're looking at is cross sections of the GI tract wall in 2 different parts of the digestive tract, the stomach and the small intestine. And like I pointed out in the earlier slide, you can see that the characteristics look a little bit different between the different parts of the digestive tract. But anyway, moving on to the mucosa. The mucosa consists of an epithelium, a connective tissue layer, and a smooth muscle layer. Okay. A little bit about the epithelium. The epithelium is where we are secreting materials from, things like digestive acids, enzymes, and things like that, that are going to help us break down the food being processed in the digestive tract. Okay. The submucosa is kind of like a connective tissue layer that has, it's kind of like the behind the scenes extra parts. So like blood vessels, lymph vessels. We also have a nerve network in there in the submucosa. Okay. Next up, we have the muscularis externa. So the muscularis externa is a smooth muscle layer. It's actually several smooth muscle layers. So we can have like a longitudinal muscle layer and a circular muscle layer. And then in some parts of the digestive tract, we also have a third layer that's oblique. So you can see that here in the stomach, we've got our 2 different muscle layers plus this oblique muscle layer. In the small intestine, we just have the 2 layers. Okay. The function of the smooth muscle in the wall of the GI tract is to move the food that's being processed down the GI tract. And we will be talking about different types of motility, different patterns of motility in a little bit. Okay. And then finally, we have the serosa, which is kind of like a connective tissue that like sort of sits on the outside of the GI tract wall. It kind of holds everything together, and it's continuous with the inner lining of the abdominal cavity. Okay. Finally, I just want to point out that we have these nerve networks that I did mention before, but we have nerve networks that are in the muscularis externa and in the submucosa. They're called the myenteric plexus and the submucosal plexus. Don't worry about the name, but the word plexus basically means nerve network. Okay. And I just want to point them out because they're going to be regulating the activities that go on in the GI tract. So they're going to be sending signals telling the smooth muscle to contract or relax. They're going to be sending signals to tell the epithelial cells to secrete materials, and so on.